Hello, today at DigiWiz we are creating the 4-channel RC Jeep. So I want you to take out all your parts and organise them nice and neatly. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add 4 big shaft carriers onto the green grid board. So we're going to go 1 hole down and we're going to screw in using the small screws, 2 screws a bracket or big shaft carrier, and you're just going to go around to the board at each corner, leaving 1 space, and add those carriers onto the green grid board. So once you've all the big shaft carriers on the green board, we're going to turn the board over and we're going to fix 2 small shaft carriers onto the grid board with screws just next to the big shaft carriers. So 2 screws for each carrier, so just right next to 2 of the other shaft carriers underneath. Now we're going to thread the long shaft bar into the lower holes of the small shaft carriers, the ones we just put in, and using the orange sleeves to limit the position of the long shaft. Next we're going to install 2 dual layer gears onto the long shaft. The smaller layer outwards, then use 2 sleeves to limit their position. Now note these different types of gears. These are the ones with more teeth in the inside. So next we're going to create our wheels. So we'll get the small shaft bars and we're going to push them through onto each wheel. Then we're going to add the belt pullet and the single layer gear onto the short shafts in sequence. So you just apply a bit of pressure, apply your belt pullet, and for this one I'm adding the orange sleeve. So 2 of them. Now I must do the same with the other 2 wheels, but besides adding the orange sleeve, I'm going to add the single layer gear. So you should have 2 wheels with an orange sleeve and 2 wheels with a single layer gear. Once this is done, we're going to connect the wheels, the axles of the wheels, into the shaft carriers. So you can put them into the lower hole. So you want the teeth here of the gears to be touching the other gear. So it's important that they connect it together. Again, just threading through and make sure the teeth of the gears are touching each other. You need some friction here for driving later on. So we'll add an orange sleeve to prevent it from coming loose, to tighten it up. Next we'll add the back wheels. Just thread them through the holes at the bottom, and then add your orange sleeve. Do the same with the last wheel. Thread it through and add your orange sleeve. Next we're going to apply the rubber bands. So these are going to go onto the pulleys. So connect one to the other at the same side. Next you can apply the same to the other side of the car. So add your rubber band onto the pulleys. So the next thing now, we have a battery box, the motors, the chipboard, the switch, and what we're going to do is we're going to connect all these wires together. But first we must make sure we have the wires trimmed back. So with a nail clippers or a scissors or a knife, just gently cut the plastic, not the wire, and then use your nails to pull off the plastic. This will give you a bit more wire to connect the wires together. So just go through all of them, trim back as much as you need, and then later on we'll connect them. Once you've all the wires trimmed back, next we're going to get a small piece of the black syringe tube. So just cut that off with the scissors and cut one or two pieces, and we'll be using this to connect the wires together too. So there's two different wires. There's a red wire from the battery box and there's a red wire from the chipboard. So we're going to connect both of them onto the switch. So one at each side of the switch onto both brackets. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect the two black wires. So we're going to add the black syringe tube onto the black wire of the battery box, and then we're going to tie the two black wires together, one from the chipboard. Just tie them best you can, and then cover over the knot with the black syringe tube. So now we have two small gears, white gears. We're going to attach these onto each motor. So the silver and green motors just connected to the end, thread it through, and you must apply some pressure here to push it all the way down through. So do this to both motors. So once you have the small main gears on, we're we're going to connect the wires onto the motor. So there's a copper bracket on the top of each motor near the green part. So we must connect the wires, the proper colour wires in the right place with that copper bracket. So the first one we're going to do is the white wire. So we're going to thread that through the bracket and tie it as securely as we can. So make sure that you have the right wire here. Then we're going to thread the green wire through that motor on the opposite side and thread that through and tie it as best you can. It is important that you make sure you have the right colour wires in the right place. After that, we're going to connect the blue wire and the yellow wire onto the other motor. Same thing again, just the different brackets. Make sure you have the blue wire in the right place and the yellow wire in the opposite place. So next we're going to get the motor and we're going to apply the adhesive tape, sticky tape, onto the back of the motor. So just peel it off, each side double-sided. Now we want the small main gear here of the motor to be touching the teeth of the main gear on the green grid board. So make sure they're connected, that the both wheels are rotating together. Again, make sure you have the motor in the right position, so the yellow and blue one is in the right position. So I have the yellow and blue one on the right position of the motor. Next, do the same with the opposite motor. So put on your tape and make sure the gears are touching the teeth of the other gear. Next, using the cushion screw to fix the white lead of the reception board and the antenna onto the green grid board. So screw them in and secure them as best you can. Next, we're going to screw in the switch onto the green board. So using 2 cushion screws, place in the center of the board at the back and screw them in. Now we're going to insert 4 short shafts into 4 corners of the small grid board. So 4 shafts, press them in to the 4 corners. After this, we're going to use a screw to fix the angle iron onto the orange block plate. 3 holes gap between the short split and the left edge of the angle iron. So 2 screws here, just screw them in and secure them as best you can. So next I want you to screw in that orange block board onto the green grid board. So at the front of that, right in the middle, just 2 screws, screw them in to the front of the board. Next I want you to attach the 4 shaft bars with the small green board onto the back of the car. So line them up with 4 different holes and place the shaft bars through the holes. Once this is done, using cushion screws, we're going to attach the motor box onto the top of the roof. So 2 cushion screws. Next, we're going to tidy up some wires. So using a bit of cord, we can attach the wires onto the grid board, tie them up as best you can, and snip off the cord to keep it tidy. The next piece we're going to do now is we're going to do the remote. So we must trim wires back again. So using a nail clippers, just trim back any wires so we can get a better tie. So next I want you to cut off some of the black syringe tube. 2 pieces for the wires, one for black, one for red. We're going to thread it through onto the black wire, and once that's done, then we're going to connect the black wire from the battery box onto the black wire of the chipboard. Tie them best as you can and then cover over with the black syringe tube. Repeat the same process then with the red wire. So we will tie them together and then cover over again with the black syringe tube. So now we're going to get some double-sided tape again. Stick this onto the back of the middle of the battery box, the back of it. Take off the tape and we'll place this on 1/2 of the green board. Next we're going to tie the chipboard on securely onto the green board. So using the cable tie this together at the corner and then cut it off with the scissors. So that'll keep it in position. Now, the next thing now is a small bit tricky, so we must take our time with this. We must connect the antenna with the white lead ring onto the small grid board. So turn over the grid board and just screw them in together using a cushion screw at the corner of the grid board. The second last thing we will do then is just tie another cable tie on with the chipboard and the green board. So just secure that better and then cut it off. So the last thing we're going to do now is connect the batteries onto the battery boxes. So plus to plus, minus to minus. Make sure all your parts are connected, all the gears, all the teeth are connected, all the rubber bands, that the wires are connected, that the motor's in the right place. And once you grab your remote, then you can switch on the switch at the back of the car, and there she goes. The car will be moving. So there's a couple of different switches, the 4 channels on the remote itself. You could press 2 of them together to get a straight line, or you can press 1 to just give you one wheel turning. And there you have it, the JC Jeep. Well done for creating the DigiWiz JC Jeep.